good evening. Welcome to the Kansas City Woodworkers Guild December 2020 meeting. Thank God this year's about over with. I'd like to welcome new members. If you're a new member, stand up at home, give yourself a round of applause. We appreciate the new members. We got new paving in our parking lot. When you come in, we actually have a handicap spot now to the right of the door as you pull in the lot. So the sign isn't up on the wall yet, but they're going to put one up there, they assure me. I'm going to take off my mask. I can talk better, I think, that way. My lovely wife made me this holiday mask. So on a more serious note, our rent will be increasing in May, but the dues will not be increasing. So we don't have to worry about that. We'll just have to pay a little bit more in rent. Speaking of membership here, the renewals are due. If you have not yet renewed, you can save $5 on your renewal if you renew by January 31st. If you wait until after February 28th, which is the cutoff, you will be considered a new member, and you'll have to go through safety training all over again. You don't want to do that. Let's see. Speaking of safety training, nice segue from one to the next. Safety orientations will be held the second Sunday of the month, starting on January 10th, continuing on February 14th, March 14th, and April 11th so far. Orientations are free. Another method to get your green name badge that gets you shop privileges is to take the Rough to Ready class. There is a fee for that class. It's $50 for Sawdust Maker memberships or $40 if you're a Woodworker Plus. Remember, your Woodworker Plus gets you a 20% discount on all your classes that you take here at the Guild. Members that want to do the Rough to Ready still need to do the online safety test. Bring your answer sheet and your waiver to the Guild. You'll watch the safety video. You'll still correct your test to 100%, but then you and a trainer will go out into the shop and actually make a box from scratch, and you'll learn all the safety points on each piece of equipment that you use. And then you'll also have enough wood to make another box. And so you're encouraged to make that pretty quickly while everything's fresh in your mind. You come in during an open shop, and any of the shop foremen can also help you out as well. As always, our Guild minutes for board meetings and leadership committee meetings are found online on the members only section of the Guild website. They're also in a binder, in two different binders in the Guild library. And they are up to date, I'm being told. We have our social media. Do check us out on Facebook, facebook.com/KCWWG, and on Instagram at KC Woodworkers Guild. I think that's all on that one. Oh, let's talk about sponsorship. Do remember to use Amazon Smile. On your screen, you'll see the correct number, but you can go to smile.amazon.com, search for the Kansas City Woodworkers Guild, and every purchase that you make through Amazon, 0.5% will come back to the Guild. It doesn't raise your price on the item that you're purchasing on Amazon, but it does give the Guild a little bit of money. Recently, we just got a check for like $83 or $87 for all the purchases. I'm hopeful that in January, February, with all the Christmas purchases, we'll get even more money. So the shop does have a new drill press. It's another Nova DVR, similar to the one that we currently have. It does have a little bit different screen on it. And so if you're unfamiliar with it, take a few minutes to play with some of the buttons on there or ask a shop foreman, and they'll be glad to help you out. Speaking of shop foreman, Tuesday morning during open shop, one of our members left a saw stop damaged, and the shop foreman at the time was not notified of it. And when another member came up to use the saw, couldn't get the blade to go up and down. And when I came in at noon, the saw had been locked out. I was busy all day, couldn't get it fixed, and it is fixed now. But if something happens in the shop, we know things happen. But let a shop foreman know so that we can either take care of it right away or lock it out so nobody gets hurt on it. That's one of our biggest fears, is that somebody leaves a piece of equipment damaged and then another member comes up to use it and they get hurt on it. We ask that we know things happen. Just bring it to our attention and we'll take care of it then. Let's see, classes. I know the big class that a lot of people want is the beginning woodworking class. That starts in January, runs 10 weeks. Then they take a couple of weeks off, and then the intermediate class starts for another 10 weeks. And in the third quarter is another beginning woodworking class, finishing up in the fourth quarter with another intermediate class. Those classes fill up fast, so sign up soon if you're a new member wishing to take those. Let's see. I guess we're going to show and tell items, or item. We have one item from Larry Welling. He has a blanket chest in the shaker style. The primary wood in this is cherry. Wow, that looks cool. The secondary wood is poplar. The dimensions on it are 47 by 28 by 20. The special features on this chest are the hand-cut dovetails, the outstanding grain pattern on the lid, and the construction time in bits and pieces over several months. The current use of this piece is home storage. You can store your whole home in that. That's how big it is. Another show and tell item is these epic, get this so we can see that. Zoom, there we go. These were made by Chuck Saunders and lots of volunteers here at the Guild. And I want to thank Chuck. Thank you very much. This was a great fundraiser for the Guild. I'd like to thank everyone that helped out on this. Not easy. It's an intermediate project, but the client just loved them. They're all poplar. They were stained. They were top coated and assembled over several weeks, but this raised a lot of money for the Guild. So I'd like to thank Chuck. Thank you, Chuck. You and your team did a great job on this, and thanks to everyone who helped out with this. We appreciate it. The what? Oh, you want to send your show and tell photos. Thank you. If you have show and tell items that you'd like to share in the January meeting, the email address is kcwg, and it should be on your screen right now, kcwg.meetings@gmail.com. kcwg.meetings@gmail.com. Tell us what your project is. Send us as many photos as you want. Give us your name, what the project is. Like Larry's was a blanket chest. Tell us some of the cool features about it, some of the challenges. A lot of people want to know what the finish is, and a lot of people want to know how long it took to build this. I know a lot of retired people, it takes years for them to do some of their projects. I'm getting lots of nods from the folks here tonight. We're going to go on. The next thing is we always try to recognize members of the Guild for outstanding contributions to the Guild. And this year, the gentleman who was the recipient of the Contributor of the Year Award, I'm going to unveil this now, is Don Steele. And we appreciate all of the efforts that Don has done this year. If you've been to the library, you will notice that it is a whole lot cleaner than it was. So we really appreciate all the work that Don has done in helping us out with a lot of the web and email information that goes out, and also his contributions to getting the library shipshape. And also he does the classified email each week, and that I can tell you because I get a lot of those requests. He does a great job at getting all of those out. So Don, thank you very much. We appreciate everything you've done for us. I've got one more award. This is for a person that has come to the Guild. She's very excited to be here. She really loves interacting with all of her members. She asks very pertinent questions that a lot of us aren't, brave enough to ask, but she has no fear in this. And I'm hopeful that because she's 11 years old now, I'm hopeful that in 2 years she will become a member of the guild, and in a few years after that, come in here and use the shop. So Megan McCauley, come on up here. We have your own name badge that says Guild Sweetheart on it. That's for you. So, so thank you very much, Megan. We appreciate your being here. Okay, now we're going to move into our presentation tonight. Julie Bender is a pyrography artist. When you get to the level of skill and artwork that she has, you're no longer a wood burner. You are a pyrographer. And Julie recorded this special, it's about 28, 29 minutes long, this special thing just for us. And she's going to talk about wood burning, pyrography. She's going to talk about the tools. One of the things that she sent me an email on is that she wanted me to make sure that you all knew that a lot of these brands of tools, the tips, the grips, the handles, the cords, are interchangeable with the power units that she's going to talk about. But she does, she'll have her website and all that information. She encourages questions, so after you watch this, she'll have her contact information. You can certainly send her an email. She's also going to have a bunch of classes starting in January. They run about 2.5 hours long. They're several weeks long, but it is absolutely incredible the type of work that she does. And it's all on Zoom as well. And so when you're working in her class, you will hear the other members' questions. You'll be able to see the way she's got her studio set up. You'll see precisely the tips she's using and the artwork that she's doing. And, I'm not one for pyrography, but I saw this stuff. I'm like, heck, I might even take one of these classes. So we're going to start Julie's video, and after that, we'll be back for some closing remarks.
Hi, I'm Julie Bender. I am here to give all of you with the Kansas City Woodworkers Guild some time to learn about me and my craft. I do pyrography, as you probably know by now, for tonight's meeting. And I wanted to share some of what I know with you and also talk about the classes that I offer online now and kind of give you a little history and a little bit of knowledge about pyrography and how it might integrate with the good work that you're doing over there on your end with your beautiful woodwork. And I actually have a lot of students who are woodworkers and wood carvers, among other types of expertises for what they do with their wood, instruments and intarsia, things like that. Anyway, I wanted to really start out with a slideshow here, just a few slides to show you. I won't spend much time on it, and then I want to go ahead and demo for you exactly what I do, and I'll get into all the specifics that you probably want to know about. I'm going to hopefully answer questions that you might have if we were live together tonight. So I'm going to go ahead and first share my screen with you and let you see what I'm doing here with my slideshow. So here we go. This is just an introduction, to basically what I do with my students. And I'm a lot more explicit and detailed when I give an actual demonstration to my students, my introduction to pyrography students. I'll show them also a slideshow, but for the sake of trying to fit everything into this short amount of time we have together, I want to go ahead and get this and share at least these main kind of high points with you. This wood burner is a real basic wood burner. It's what I started out with when I first started doing wood burning. I had no idea what I was doing, so I went over to a hobby shop and picked this up. It's a plug-in. You can see the wide handle that it's got, and it basically comes with certain tips. They have extended their lines. There are different makers of these types of tools now that you could pick one up really affordably and just go ahead and try what you can with this particular tool. Like I said, it's a plug-in. Now they're coming with different options where you can actually change the level of heat that you're using. So it's got a little dial on the side and you can adjust that level of heat. So it's not just putting out a tremendous amount of heat when you plug it in. But in order to change those tips out, you do have to wait until that tool cools down for the most part so that you're safe and it's easy to change out. So that's kind of that tool. And then, fast forward to today, I use razor tip tools. There are other makers of wood burning tools obviously out there, but this is kind of the Cadillac, I guess, of the wood burning systems. And so that's a dual burner right there, razor tip. And that means that you can just kind of toggle back and forth with one or the other tool at a time. But it's nice when you're doing a kind of a complex piece and you can go ahead and switch to either tool. So I do like that dual burner. You can see some of the tips that I use there at the bottom. Basically just unplug the cable and plug those back in and you are suddenly working with a different tool. So that's kind of that. I swear by razor tip. They have a tremendous product and really allows users to get into as much detail and textures as you want to based on the tools that they're offering. They offer just a slew of different tools. I have a lot more than just those four. When I first started burning, I invested in a lot of different tools that they offer just so I could try them out and see what works for me. And now I pretty much have it down to just a few tools that I use for all my work. And these are the same tools that I recommend to my students. And we use them together. So we kind of are comparing apples to apples when we work. That way they can kind of use what I'm using and get pretty much almost the same effect. So that's why I like razor tip an awful lot. Great customer service, great tools. You pay a little bit more, but I'm one of those, where I definitely feel like you get what you pay for. So in that case, these tools just work really well. I've never had to try anything else in all the years that I've been burning since 2002. So, they've done very well for me. And I've developed quite a nice relationship with them as well. So we work together very well. With my needs and we share ideas and all that kind of thing. As far as a sealant goes, I wanted to cover this just really quickly. These are the two that I use for the most part. I've been doing this since 2002 for 18 years and I've been burning on a lot of wood. And so I have finally got it down to these two that I really like the best. It's the sheen, the silicone. If you use a lot of that, that's where you're going to lose a lot of your work. Wood, pyrography done on wood will fade over some time. Not altogether, but there's a good chance that you're going to see some fading when you burn on wood, any type of wood. So that's why I finally kind of settled on these. If you have any questions later on and you want to know again what these products are, I can email that to you if you like. And I also wanted to show you an image just really quickly of kind of how I burn. I do all my burnings when I work on wood. It's always on a maple wood surface. This is maple ply on MDF. And, it's really, really high quality maple. And that's all that I would ever work on. That's seamless. It's whole piece face, so it's seamless, so you don't see that seam running through the middle or wherever. I just won't do that. I do a lot of, I make my career out of pyrography. So because of that, I have to use the very, very best tools, the very, very best wood and sander, because the sanding of the piece is going to be very instrumental in what the result of that piece is going to end up looking like. So all these things come into play when I burn. Again, I make my career in this, so it has to be the very, very best. I show my work at galleries, shows, museums, commissions. Everything that I do is sold. So I have to use the very best materials that are out there. So anyway, this piece I did for a set of students back when I was doing my workshops way back in 2016. Doesn't sound like that long ago, actually, but it feels like it was. I do in-person workshops when when the world allows, when COVID's not around, I'll resume those workshops. But meantime, I found a way of actually teaching online, and that's doing very, very well. I'll talk more about that in just a few minutes. So I started out this piece by transferring the image on the maple wood. There's graphite paper that can be used. You can use your pencil. There's a lot of ways to transfer your image onto the surface. I start with the eye, like I do in all my subjects, and I just kind of go from there. I burn. I use my techniques, pretty much my smooth shading techniques and my tapering techniques. These are techniques that I've taught myself. Everything is completely self-taught here. And I impart all that information to my students as well. So by the time we're done, they have learned pretty much everything that I know that I use in my own art. So I come out and I'm working and I'm just kind of extending my burn from there. I'm taking that out, creating some textures and some hairs, and I'm laying what I call down the foundation. At this point, that's all I'm doing. I'm not doing the entire burn all at once. I'm laying just kind of like the first layer down. I'm getting all the information in there. I'm spreading it around, kind of getting the direction of all the hairs, starting to put in some of the textures, the darks and lights, and basically distinguishing shapes here so that I can kind of build upon that and keep going. Some of the textures in the antlers there. This is a bull elk, by the way, that I saw up in Rocky Mountain National Park. I live very, very close to there. I basically moved to Colorado and near these state parks and national parks so that I could be near them and see these animals in person and observe them in the wild, in their natural habitat, and get to understand their behavior, and almost to the point where I can predict their behavior. And so therefore I can tell the stories behind these animals that I depict in my art. I bring my camera wherever I go. There's always something to see. And here I am finally getting to the point where this foundation is all laid down now. I've got everything in there. And here's where the fun part starts for me, is when I can really deepen the shadows and the darks and really accentuate the highlights and get the textures more defined and the details in the hair more defined. So I'm gonna come and go literally take this piece and do it pretty much all over again. I cover the entire surface, and I just, like I said, I deepen the darks and I refine the details and all that. So now pretty much the piece is done. I can pretty much call that one done. But you can see the eye there that really pops now with that light around it, and then the darks around the light. It really, really makes that eye pop. And people really need to see the eyes the most when you're burning pretty much any subject at all. So I wanted to talk to you about my classes. This is my studio, my humble studio out of my home. I work right here, and I've got that camera off to the right that's pointed right at my work table, and that's where I do all my own work, and that's where I teach from. So the camera's actually pointed down right at that wood there, and I can record each session, each student session, each class, and demo and record that session as well, so that later on they want to see my recording from the time that I spent with them in class together. They'll also have an additional, pretty much a whole new session to look at, a whole new class that we just took together. They have the chance to take a look at that again. And then also, what's really interesting about this is I can watch them, of course. Here's one of my first classes, my introduction to pyrography classes with a few students, getting myself started here with certain students. And these are all brand new students. They did a great job. Or in fact, I'm still working with them on subsequent classes. We're just having a really good time, and they're learning an awful lot. And then one of the best things about these online classes, even versus my in-person workshops, is that I can actually watch them working while they're working in real time. So I can kind of demonstrate what I'm doing on my end, and they'll all watch, and then they turn to start working on their pieces. And while they're working, I can actually watch them work in real time thanks to that tiny little camera there. It's a very affordable camera. It's $20. I recommend it to all my students so that I can actually help them while they're actually working, which really comes in super handy. So that's an example of that right there, where they're kind of working and their cameras are pointed to their work, and through the internet and Zoom, I get to watch them work, and I can stop them in their tracks and say, hey, you're stroking a little too fast. I think your heat's a little too high. Let's turn it down. All right, maybe you should just stop and watch me for another minute or so, and then let's try that one more. Let's try that part again. So it really comes in handy. That camera makes everything completely, it's a game changer for my classes. And I wanted to show you just a couple of examples of their work in progress right now. This is one of those students who's coming along with her butterfly and Lily. And here's another student doing the same thing. You can kind of see the different styles between the two. And then also I have another student who worked on a coyote. And again, all these animals and all these subjects, all these images that my students work on, I send them via email and they print them on their end and then they transfer it on their wood. And that's how we get to do all that work together. So this is a great, great coyote, a wonderful student, beginner student. She's actually a wood carver. She belongs to a wood carving club. And she, as a part of that, and she learned about my wood burning classes. And so she's been spreading the word on her end as well. But this is a great depiction of a coyote that I actually saw at Rocky Mountain National Park that she actually burned. I'm really, really proud of what she's done in that small amount of time together, and really proud of the way she's done this. This is another student. This is a private student. She and I are working one-on-one and working on this fox kit. She wanted some help, getting a real sense of how to use techniques and to take her through a certain animal. So we're working on this together. We've been together for 8 weeks now, and she just went ahead and registered for another 4 weeks with me in private together. So we're just kind of taking our time and getting through this fox, but I think she's doing a great job so far. And I wanted to show you my workshops in person. We stay in cabins, different cabins in this particular resort up near Rocky Mountain National Park. And here's an example of a few students that I'm working with above. And then just a couple of, literally I'd take hundreds of thousands of photographs when we're together with my classes up at Rocky Mountain National Park. It's literally 2 miles from where we do our workshops. So we go out very early in the morning and see some of these amazing animals and get some great photography. And then again, I just want to leave you with a slide again that shows you where I'm at, juliebender.com. I list all my online classes, so you can find out everything you need to know about those classes, and you can register right there as well. My materials list is very detailed and it has links with it, so you can go directly to these products that I recommend for my classes. And everything is pretty much written out there very explicitly. It shows you the definition of the class, what the class is all about. I offer introductory and then kind of an intermediate level class, and then also my private classes. So that's going super well so far. So I'm going to stop this screen here, come back to me, and then I'm going to turn it over to my camera that is on top of my work, and I'll just work a little bit and show you exactly how I burn, and then exactly it's the same thing as when I teach my students. So I'm going to go ahead and turn this on, and there's an example of a beginner class. Again, it looks a little daunting, I guess, because when I say beginner, it's like, well, how can that happen at beginner level? But it really can. Basically, you're taking an image that I take photographs of, and we transfer them onto the wood together. Again, this is maple wood. I'm going to turn on my burner. Same thing that you saw a little while ago. It's the razor tip burner, and you can see that right here. And again, I've got tools all hooked up to it already, so I'm going to turn on my large spear shader, which is right here. And I'm going to zoom in so you can see it. They come in different shapes, but they also come in different sizes. It's got to have that bend to it. It's a nice little bend to it, so it feels like a natural kind of stroking when you're stroking on your surface. So I'm going to move that back out so you can see the whole thing again. And I think I'm going to, I always keep my photograph right next to where I burn here so I can compare it where I need to be. And I kind of keep my hand on it as well and kind of guide myself through where I need to be. So I'm just going to do a little bit of work here. And I've got my burner set to kind of medium level, about a 6. I'm going to start at about a 5.5. and just make sure that when I burn that I'm not going too dark. You can always go darker, but you can't go lighter. So I'm going to zoom in a little bit so you can see a little bit better detail. Bring that down so you can see where I'm at. I'm going to kind of start over here where this behind the ear, right up here, I think. I'm just going to bring this value down. And all I'm going to do is kind of give it a little bit more shading, and using what I call the tapering method, you basically just kind of start where you left off. And I really haven't even touched this piece in probably almost a month now. And just gliding that tool down. Again, this surface is very, very well sanded so that when I'm finally burning, I know that I'm not going to hit much of a resistance with the wood because it was so well sanded. I use an Orbit sander, by the way. It just kind of saves my wrist, and it saves me a lot of time too. Obviously, if you're using a sander, that's fine, and I make my recommendations on my website, my class website, for these tools. But I'm just taking these values and just dragging that down. It feels like I'm painting with heat. That's kind of how I describe all this process. It very much feels like I'm just kind of gliding this on. It almost feels like oil painting, only I'm burning with heat instead of painting with a brush. Kind of feels the same way. So I'm going to just take some of these values. I'm going to drag them down a little bit more. Take them over to the side a little bit. And I'm going to take these values up here now and drag them down a little bit so that they're a little bit better blended. And I'm just going to bring some of that value straight down according to the photo that I'm looking at all the time. My eyes are really going back and forth quite a bit. I don't make much of a burn unless I look back at the photograph to make sure that everything is just the way it's supposed to be. And this is just the foundation. This is not the final piece. I'm not doing the final burn right here. This is just getting all that information down, and I'll go over it again and again and again. But I want to blend these values and come in real dark right around here where it shows that it needs to be nice and dark, and give it that value. And from there, now I can use that kind of as a visual reference and use that as I move my way around the wood. So I'm just coming down, adding some more value. And I'm just going to keep on doing that until everything's pretty much done. This takes quite a while to do, by the way. It's not a slap it together kind of medium. It really does take a lot of time to accomplish a very nice burn. If your desire is to burn something kind of hyper realistic, which I do. And so, you just have to spend the time with it. And that's something that I really emphasize with my students, because everybody thinks that they're not doing a good job. They can only see it halfway through. They don't know how it's going to look because they feel like there's a lot of work to be done yet, and they can't really see the light at the end of the tunnel yet. But that's just that's just one of the stages that this has to go through in order to get to the finished point. So you can't hurry the process. You really can't. I don't. I work tediously and very, very slowly. Also, if you want to work on other woods, you can certainly do that. I always like a very hard wood because the hard wood will burn much slower than a soft wood. So that's why I like maple very, very much. I like it for its creamy background and its very subtle grain. I like the grain. I like the way it shows through, but it doesn't really interfere with the artwork either. So that's kind of nice. And again, I'm just laying the foundation. Once that foundation is done, then I really get into the details. Then that's where the fun begins, and I can start seeing that light at the end of the tunnel. And that's how long it takes. It just takes, quite a bit of time. This piece altogether will probably take, as far as beginning to end in terms of man hours, I would think it's probably going to take about maybe 25 to 30 hours altogether. So it can be done, and I love doing it. It's just that I know when I go into something like this, it's just going to take some time to actually finish. So I don't look at it like, let's just get this thing done. I just sit down and just think to myself, all right, let's have some fun. So that's kind of the way I look at that. I'm going to bring this value down over here and extend these values. And again, you can kind of see my transfer lines in here. I'm just following my transfer lines. I'm not worried about too much darkness right now, but I certainly will later on. Again, I'm just getting the foundation down right now. So I'm just kind of getting that information in there and just kind of gliding this tool. There are other tools that you can use, of course. And basically, even with my students, I find quite a bit that they end up liking a certain tool. And that's great. If something works better for you than what I'm teaching you to use, then I'm all for it. Whatever makes you happy, whatever gets the job done. It took me a while to figure out what tools work best for me. So, that's what I'm going for, is just the right feel of it. And as soon as I know that a tool is working for me, I kind of stick with it because it just makes sense and it just feels right. I'm just kind of looking up at this and trying to figure out where to go next to keep you guys from falling asleep. So I'm just going to come over here and add a little bit more value in here. It becomes very, very light right next to this, but I don't want to leave that looking like a line. I really want to blend it. So I'm going to come right up against that edge and bring that and kind of drag some value in here as I burn very lightly, because it will be a little bit lighter. But I basically what I really want to do is just kind of blend these areas together so it stops looking like a line and looks more like a kind of an object, a shape. And all these shapes are finally going to blend together in the end and look like one entire thing, which is the horse. This is a wild horse that I saw, I think, in Wyoming at the time. There's a place, a sanctuary for wild horses. Once you see a wild horse, it's like that's it for me. That's pretty much the only kind of horse I'd probably ever want to burn again. So I'm going to move over to around here now and add a little bit more value right in here. Just kind of go the other way with it. Get some more value over here. It's just a matter of spending the right amount of time with it, being very patient with it. Sometimes looking at your heat level, and if you're going too hot, too dark, then you want to turn that level of heat down. Or maybe you'd want to slow down your strokes and add a little bit more value that way, because the heat from your tool will stay with you when you slow down your strokes, because the heat won't dissipate quite as fast. So you got to slow down sometimes and just take your time, elongate your stroke, make it nice and smooth and tapered. What I tell my students is the tapering really involves landing on that wood very nicely and smoothly, just like a plane landing on the ground. And then when you pick up that tool at the end of the stroke, it's like the plane taking off. And so you just have to be very careful to not make any unfortunate or unnecessary blotches as you burn. And you can avoid all that with a nice tapering method. And I teach that quite a bit, and I use it every day with my own art. So I think I'm going to stop right there. I did a little bit, not a lot, but again, it takes a while. And all these shapes here are really going to get blended together much more. So they kind of look like one shape and one shape and one shape. And then when I start values and darkening everything up and really blending the lines that are created to make those shapes with the areas right adjacent to them, they're going to look a lot more blended and a lot less stark as just, as lines. They're going to be blended together, and everything's going to make more sense when everything's kind of nicely blended together a little bit more. So that's my little demo. And again, when I do my classes, I often record just exactly what I showed you so that my students can go back and look at those later on and say, wow, okay, I don't remember seeing that before, but now I get it. And so I allow them to look at those videos, and it's just a nice value added part of my workshops, my classes, my online classes. So I encourage you to take a look at what I offer at juliebender.com. My contact information is also on that website. Feel free to email me, and I can answer any other questions for you. All my classes, my introductory classes last 2.5 hours. So we spend quite a bit of time together, and we really need that time because it takes a while to kind of get into the projects, and it also takes a while to get into the burning itself. So I'm there to guide my students along pretty much stroke by stroke. And then my private classes are 2 hours long each. By the way, my introductory classes are 8 weeks long, so that gives us a lot of time to kind of talk about technique and start doing little exercises to understand those techniques to actually get used to burning. It's just as much tactile as anything else. You really have to get a feel for it. And so we spend time with that. And then we get into different projects where we can actually accomplish something a lot more fun than just an exercise. So they come out usually with a beautiful image, probably more likely than not a wildlife image of some sort, because I've got hundreds of thousands of photographs to choose from for my students. I choose them very, very carefully for my students so that they have the best learning experience that they can get. So that's pretty much it in a nutshell. And I appreciate your watching and spending time with me. And again, feel free to contact me anytime about my workshops or about my online classes. And I'm happy to answer any questions. Thanks a lot. I appreciate all your time.
Now I think we're back. Yes, we are back. Wow. We're the few of us that are here at the Guild during this recording. We're like, holy crap, that's wood burning? No, that's pyrography. So, like Julie said, contact her if you have any questions. Put in my shameless plug for Woodcraft. We carry Coalwood wood burning equipment at Woodcraft. And we have a lot of the tips and everything that she talked about. But I learned a lot just watching her do that. But I was just blown away by that first image. That was just absolutely incredible. So, again, juliebender.com. Get a hold of her if you're interested in her classes. Sign up there. Hopefully, once COVID's all gone, maybe she'll want to take a trip out here and see us for a live class. So, anyway, that's about it for this month. I've got my Guild sweetheart up here, and she wants to say special words.
Happy holidays!
Yes, thank you very much. Merry Christmas. Be safe. We'll see you. Happy New Year. And for me, my birthday's in between there, so I'm turning 60 this year. Woohoo! So we'll see you next year. Be safe.